Hello and welcome to a quick little video guide of how I personally use ChatGPT to kind of bolster my solo play. There are a couple things that I want to get off the bat, or note off the bat. Number one, most important thing that I have found to be true about using AI for solo RPG play is that it best serves you and your game when you apply qualification. Not everything it spits out, excuse me. It's not everything it spits out is important, valuable, good, useful, whatever. And if you pay for a service, you can hit unlimited prompts and just keep going and fine tuning it and cutting and chopping what you want. But we'll get into that, and I'm going to talk through how I personally use it and where I use it and what I think is useful. So, just to set the stage, I have recently discovered I discovered it a while ago, but I've started actually using the Forbidden Lands system. And what I needed personally to really get a groove going with solo RPGs, I did a lot of 5e play. I've probably done like 20 to 30 sessions. Probably 80% of those had a combat encounter. A lot of them were just combat encounters, and that game is a great tactical combat game. It's a tactical combat superhero game, is what 5e is. Once you get past level 3 or 4, it becomes pretty nuts what you can do. And I personally have discovered the OSR, and it's kind of really just putting words to the fantasy I have always enjoyed, which is, magic is mysterious and not this hard functioning, it is hard. There are hard elements to it, but yeah, I'm in the weeds. I have realized that Forbidden Lands is great for me because the setting is very low fantasy. The magic is kind of is mysterious and dark and wild and uncontrolled, and there are mishap tables and all that jazz. Combat is deadly. If it's OSR, combat's got to be deadly. I don't really care if it's deadly or not. I love slashing through hordes of enemies as much as the next adventurer, but what's cool here is the damage applies to your stats, which I love that because it's just little. The game is just full of these little levers and knobs you get to pull and twist and turn all the time. And every time you do something, gotta check all my levers and knobs. Have I pulled them all right? Gotta mark off this and gotta mark off that and update that, and I gotta roll here and I gotta roll there. And what I find is a story out of that. And I have realized that the more levers and knobs I have, the easier it is for me to just think, I just ate food and I failed my food roll. Shoot, I see my resources depleting. Before I'm even getting into this adventure, I already am losing resources, so I got to do something about that. And what do I do about that? Well, I venture off into the woods to go hunt. And I fail. Great. There's a mishap. My guy falls down a ravine and breaks his ankle. I take 2 damage to my strength, or wits, or whatever it is. Um, all of that just happens in this system, and I don't even really need to think. And once I get rolling, I get my little box out, my little solo RPG box of fun with my dice and my papers and my pens and all that jazz. In my little notebook, everything is right in here. One adventure is frontwards this side, another adventure is backwards this side. I get to I just get rolling. So, one of the challenges I have personally had is when I encounter a new hex, what happens? I don't want too many encounters. I don't want I don't want to be fighting all the time. I can do that in 5e because I can speed it up with little systems that I've made for myself, but this game is very different. And at the same time, I also want to encounter lots of different things. I want to encounter settlements. I want to encounter NPCs. I want to encounter natural elements, vistas. I mean, the idea for my world here, Lanios, is that it's an undiscovered, untamed wilderness, and there are people groups and pockets of people within it. There's no blood mist from the book. If anyone's familiar with the fantasy setting, I've done away with the blood mist. That's just a little too much, different for me. Not what I gel with, but this isn't an undiscovered and uncivilized land. And our adventurers, their idea is to we have a very noble elf who is rallying folks to the cause to resettle the land and bring it to its former glory. He's an old elf. I've put it in my book. Um, he wants it seen return to its glory before the breaking of the world or whatever separated this world from everything else. I have another human barbarian type who's very, just he's got a troubled past. He's trauma, he's got everything barbarians typically have. He was a soldier in this borderland above this region, and as a child soldier, lived all the way up until his troop was destroyed, everyone but himself, and now he has no idea what he lives for. I will say I just watched Vinland Saga, so Thorfinn is a huge uh, uh, inspiration for him. And then I have a halfling peddler who is he's got a ram that has like his pack ram with like all the pots and pans. I'm thinking like Bilbo on an adventure with pots and pans and little gold shinies, and he's here to like help his elf friend who maybe he like traded with before, but he's here to make money. This is an undiscovered fantasy world. There is gold to be had in these deep, dark dungeons. So, we have the city of Naruo. I made this map, by the way, in ProcGen Arcana. Amazing tool. Let me just whip it up. ProcGen Arcana. This one. ProcGen Arcana. whataboot.github.io. That I don't know why that URL doesn't coordinate with the name of the tool, but whatever. It's hosted on GitHub. Amazing. You can just generate a realm on the fly. Perilous. He's got all these generators. I'm not sure who makes this tool, but whoever does, it's amazing. And then you can just like re-roll. Oh, okay, this looks awesome. Re-roll. You just keep going until it looks right. Very cool. Anyways, go check it out. ProcGen Arcana will get you a great map for anything, up to including the region correlates to their other generators. You can right-click Stone Point, open in the medieval fantasy city, right here. Boom. Amazing for the solo kind of randomy kind of stuff. Very useful. So, anyways, okay, but this whole thing is about ChatGPT. So, I've got a base world. I've got an idea for my characters. They've got a quest, and I have a map. And what do? In Forbidden Lands, you just kind of start doing it. You just move. You just hike and then see what happens next. And once you embrace that, it's an amazing system. So, okay, so what I needed was looking through the encounters. The book encourages you to roll for an encounter every time you enter a hex, I think. And that was like a lot for me. I felt like I don't. I was reading through these encounters and they are involved, and I don't want to get like involved. When I'm way up here, and where's my mouse? When I'm up here, like that's, I'm just starting out my adventure, and I'm learning the system. I'm learning this world. I'm learning who my characters are. So I'm just kind of taking it slow. So what I wanted to do, I found Me, Myself, and Die has a video on West Marches, and he shares his screen, and I just stole his list. But I don't have all the supplements he has, and I don't know if that works for me, whatever. So I'm looking for options, and one of the ways that I fill in my options for NPCs, settlements, I did this a lot with 5e, and I'm gonna do it here, and I've already done it to start off this world. I'm going to do a new example today to show you how I do it, about how to use ChatGPT to help populate things, build encounter lists, build tables. You can build tables with ChatGPT very, very well. Asterisk. I will get there. Some would balk at that statement, and I would technically agree, but I'll get there and see if you agree with me. Otherwise, I use it. It's easy. So Let's head over to ChatGPT. I have typed out, so I want to just kind of walk through how I have found it to use. Number one, I subscribe to ChatGPT, and if you watch another video on my channel, I think it might be the only video on my channel. I don't know. I don't do the YouTubes. Is Notion, which I used a lot for AI, but then they started charging you on a per user basis for your Notion group of people, and I use it with lots of other folks for my D&D group that I play in. And that's expensive because you can't just buy it for yourself. Like if I want it and other users aren't using it, I can't just pay the $10 for myself. I have to buy it for everybody that uses the space, which I'm already paying for everybody to use the space. That was a big disappointment for me. I started using it when they were doing a free unlimited usage beta, and I jumped ship after they started charging. And it's a third party vendor situation where they're calling OpenAI or whoever's like source API and pulling from there. And I was getting 500 errors all the time. So if some random person at Notion is reading this, you lost a customer due to instability and the price. Now I can get image generation and unlimited prompts here with ChatGPT. ChatGPT.com or chat.openai.com, I think is the login URL. And it comes with the 4.0 model. Now, I'm normally doing this on my phone, and I'll note this for the soloists out there who prefer a more tactile experience with papers, pens, and classic, not digital dice, avoiding the digital stuff, which I have to say has been very helpful for me staying focused on, or like enjoying the game and wanting to move to the next part. I enjoy writing it out for some reason with my pen. I used to hate that, but now I've kind of gotten into it, and I've gotten a good style where it's very short and sweet. But this model, if you have the app on your phone, you can just hit the button, record, and it's just sitting on the table listening to me. Now, Google and every other service and software has every bit of my information anyways, so what's one more? So I just let it record as I'm playing, and I like talk to it like it's a person. And what I do is I like tell it I tell it audibly what I'm about to do here with text. So that's a great feature, and it's awesome, and it keeps me in the zone. But that's okay. I can use the just the text online web portal for the same features. So How do I use it? How does this work? What does this look like? ChatGPT for tables. How I get the most out of it. The first thing I do is I create a new chat that has had no questions asked because that history doesn't get muddied up. I don't want this content ruining my current solo content that I have. So, or like if I generate an NPC, I don't want the ChatGPT to call back to that NPC because it can do a lot of that stuff later if they don't really exist. So I'm kind of keeping everything sequestered here. And so I have 5e content, I have Forbidden Lands content, I have technical content for work. I have all kinds of stuff, or not for work, but for doing a web page or something like that. So the first thing I do is give it a nice, good background. My adventurers are a party of elves, dwarves, humans, and halflings. I don't have any dwarves in my party, but set the stage. They have just entered a new land called Lanios. Lanios is a recently discovered land full of mystical and fairy tale like experiences. Untouched by the hands of men who cut down forests, dwarves who mine deep in the mountains, and elves who sail on the seas. I write like I write like I write. I think that there is, I'm sure, some trick to writing in a way that gets you what you want, but I write like I'm writing a little storybook, and I get little storybook kind of responses back. Works. So that just sets the stage. That's not asking it anything. It's just setting the stage. Background information, because then it gets a vibe. You want ChatGPT to catch your vibe on what you're doing. If you're in like some kind of hardcore like a steampunk undercity fighting, undead and gross demons that have risen from a portal beneath your city, you can set that stage, and you want it to catch your vibe. What I'm going for is kind of like, classic fantasy, the Black Cauldron kind of stuff, befitting an OSR game like Forbidden Lands. So now I'm going to ask it for something. No, I'm not going to ask for something. I wrote this out earlier just to have this, I don't have to do this on the fly. The first area I've encountered is a dark and mysterious forest, and in this forest there's a half-elf named Gamriel, who we have admitted to our party as our guide. Okay? So, first thing I'm going to do is list D6 factions that live in this forest. So, here we go. You could even start off with something like list D6 factions that live in a dark and mysterious fantasy forest. And it'll do it. It'll be pretty basic, but it ignores all the stuff you could feed it ahead of time to get a better result. So I'm going to just Control X, and I am going to save this prompt information for later. So, let's go ahead and list and describe 6 factions that live in the forest. See what it does. Okay, factions of the dark and mysterious forest in Lanios. The Glade Guardians. Ooh, a secretive faction of forest-dwelling elves. Their role is to protect the forest from any external threats and maintain a mystical balance. Okay, so in my solo game where I got Gamriel from, very similar situation. Someone is trying to protect this forest and what's left of it. Cool. The Shadow Hunt. Okay. Oh, the Fungal Collective. Unique factions of fungi and myconids who communicate through a vast underground network of mycelium. Cool. All right. Great spore, massive ancient mushroom with telepathic abilities. All right, I like that, and they have a role. Great. The Shadow Hunters, nocturnal shadowy beings who thrive in the darkness of the forest. Skilled hunters and trackers. Ooh, they will track us and hunt us. The Fairy Court, a whimsical and enigmatic faction of fairies, sprites, and other magical creatures, led by Queen Lumina, a radiant and powerful fairy with a capricious nature. The Fairy Court governs the magical aspect of the forest. Okay, All right, so it's given me a bunch of these. The Ancient Wisps, the Beastkin Tribe. I'm getting big like Warcraft vibes here. But rule number 1, I don't like all of this. I might not like any of it. You can always just have a reroll and give me some new information. A qualitative approach to what you're putting out from ChatGPT is needed. This is ideation. I see a lot of discussion online talking about how is AI useful. I do not like it. It's silly. It doesn't understand. A GM-less experience using AI, I think, is impossible to be fun for me, personally. Because I'm at the mercy of AI dreaming up something I don't like. But if you just take a qualitative approach to stuff, super simple. So, all right. The Glade Guardians. D6 quests for low-level adventurers. I'm not even going to specify what system, though it knows certain systems and will give you stats and stat blocks and stuff. Someone has been feeding it someone else's IP. Anyways, D6 quests for low-level adventurers from the Glade Guardians. Oh, I just missed this. D6. You can give it a die value, and it'll just give you 6 things. So D20, D12. I just do that because if I ever want to save this list, I just throw it into OneNote, which is where I keep track of my notes. And then I could roll on it. So, and yeah, so okay, so we've got the Lost Sapling. Ooh, that sounds like a perfect level 1 quest 1. I'm a night elf that just woke up in Darnassus. Time for my first quest, kind of thing. Sure. I'm not even gonna read it. I don't even know what it says, but it's all about ideation. How does this speak to me? Protect the grove. Defend a sacred grove from an impeding attack by a group of corrupted creatures. Ooh. Okay. Protecting a grove. This is cool because what if I don't want to schedule an attack? When is the attack coming? I don't know. Perfect time to use one of those little iron-sworn clocks we all love. Okay, Mending the Veil, Whispers of the Past, sure, Cursed Clearing. So this is pretty similar to what actually I have come up with in my actual solo game. So the Forest of Vasneet is, if you look at the little icons that ProcGen Arcana gave me, they're dead forests compared to the alive forest over here. You know, you can see these nice alive trees, and we got dark dead trees. The forest was destroyed due to an ecological, magically induced, nightmare. You know, this elven society collapsed, and we don't know why. You know, it's kind of like discovering the ruins of Numenor. You know, like, what is all this ancient stuff, and why is everyone dead, and why is it haunted? You know, and there are some NPCs and stuff, and I got most of it from ChatGPT. Some of it I got from the actual Forbidden Lands encounter book, but whatever. So, I've got D6 quests. This is enough to get started. And again, my approach is I just levers and knobs where they come up. Great. I could. All right. So let me just start interacting with ChatGPT and then taking this to the next level. So I like these quests. Sure, I don't like a lot of them, but whatever. It's all part of the example. Actually, no. Let's get something I do like. So I'm going to bolster this uh, request. List and describe D6 factions that live in the forest. I'm going to pump that up a little bit. List and describe D6 factions that live in the forest. Each faction should have a notable NPC, a specific quest for the adventuring party to complete, and a notable location where the NPC and faction are headquartered. Let's roll it. Okay, so Aranis, the ancient elf with unparalleled knowledge of the forest secrets. Okay, so he was there when the forest died. You know, and the lost sapling, I think, is the key to replanting this. And that's actually the story for my half-elf druid, who's a healer because he's trying to heal the forest. Now, you also see the Glade Guardians, the Fungal Collective, the Shadow Hunters. These were already generated above, so it will remember what it's generated before and build on that. And then you can ask it specific questions. Whoops, no. Me some background for this elf Aranis. Let's see. This video is all about tables. I could go off here, but let's see. D8 notable stories that Aranis would share regarding the history of the deep, dark, and mysterious forest. Yep, he's lived there for centuries. Got it. He's an elf. Wise, patient, deeply committed to blah, 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 blah. Elf, 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 elf. The birth of the forest. Okay, so I'm not actually going to be interacting with any characters who are alive in this. You know, and again, qualification here. I don't want to interact with elves who were there. Like, if I'm in Middle-earth, I don't want to talk to Feanor. I want to talk to Círdan. I want to talk to, well, that's not a good example. I want to talk to Elrond. I want to talk to Galadriel. I want to talk to Glorfindel. I want to talk to some of these other elves that were what came next. That's what I personally like. I like that. The ancient is ancient, and what makes it special is its ancient and untouchableness. You know, you can't peer into the past to understand exactly what happened. I love that. That mystery of why this all crumbled when everything was going so well is something I want to avoid. Or I don't want to be able to just get that firsthand exposited to me. So, no matter what I'm doing, we're cutting anything like that out. Tells of a time when dark forces from the Shadow Realm invaded the forest, corrupted its purity. The Glade Guardians, along with allied factions. Okay, who are some allied factions? I could ask ChatGPT that and it would tell me. And it could be some of these other... I'm guessing the Fungal Collective. I don't know. They feel... maybe not. Do they feed off of the dead forest? I don't know. Sounds like someone should whip out their mythic chart and ask it a yes/no question. The Great Fairy Migration. Betrayal of the Green Warden. Ooh, that former ally who's come to greed and attempted to harness the forest's power for himself. That sounds like the origin story of our dark and mysterious forest. creation of the Veil. First encounter with the Fungal Collective. That would be interesting. The story highlights the importance of understanding and cooperation between different factions within the forest. The awakening of the ancient wisps. The alliance of the Beastkin. Cool. Love it. So maybe after I go encounter the Beastkin and I work my way back across my hexes back to wherever Uranus is staying. Oh wait, where does he live? I asked it to give me a notable location. Didn't I? Oh, I asked it up here. Uranus. Notable location: the Ilarion Glade, a serene and magically protected glade. Okay, so Dorthomen or whatever. Where Melian and Thingol live. Glade is filled with rare plants and a tranquil pond for healing properties. Love it. Cool. Okay. All right. So that's it. You can pivot too. All right. So on the other side, can't type. The other side of Lanios lies a cult, a dark and evil cult. Where many hobgoblin captains, orc hordes, and servants serve the Dark Master, who now seeks to rule these lands and repel any forces of good. These forces, bands of these evildoers, roam Lanios. D12 encounters with the Dark Horde. Hobgoblin Scout Patrol. And some of these are going to be pretty basic. So, you gotta get your initial prompt and then zhuzh it up a little bit, with some additional prompts. So let's try and do the zhuzh. Let's see if we can do that. Let me check. Am I still recording? Perfect. Okay. The Dark Master's champion. Ooh, I do not want to roll a 12. He's got to be huge. Corrupted forest creatures. Captured messenger. Dark Cultist Caravan, Orc Hunting Party, Hobgoblin Raid. Let's see, challenge. Destroy the... Oh, okay, well, he gives you a challenge. That's pretty sweet. Encounter. Free the villagers without causing harm and defeat the Hobgoblin guards. Expose Malakar's plans and prevent him from gaining new recruits. Ambush the caravan and confiscate the supplies and artifacts. Alright, so it gives you a little challenge in with the encounter. I don't know if I would use that, but again, ideation. So what I would normally do is just copy and paste this. Let's take it, throw it into OneNote. Whoops, I do not want it in that. Yeah, I want you in a separate box. Okay, there we go. Now it is all... Let's Control A. Yeah, there we go. I want you numbered so I can roll on you. Nice. Now we can roll a d12 and bada bing, bada boom, we've got an encounter list. And this would work if you're especially if you're running like a game like D&D with a bunch of folks who are pretty new, like don't have a preference. They're just like, I'm here to fantasy adventure. This would work, Like, this would be expectations. If I had a bunch of my friends who are not interested in generally fantasy and not interested in tabletop role-playing games, but I somehow convinced them to my table, this would capture the vibe. They'd get it. Oh, this is like Lord of the Rings. I will play and do whatever you tell me with my character sheet and roll my dice. This would make sense. So you're going to definitely get, like, your acceptable level of fantasy. But again, I like a little something extra. So, moral of the story, you can just give it D6, D8, D12, D whatever, anything you want. D20, ancient artifacts, dwarven artifacts. Some are cursed, and some are blessed. Provide, yep. Let's just give it that. Let's see what it does. Hammer of Thunder. It's cursed. The shield of the mountain is blessed. You get it. You're seeing it. You're seeing it roll here. This is how it works. So, this is how I use tables in ChatGPT. I got to put a link in the description to where I actually get to the useful information. I ranted quite a bit. I do these videos, see to my, off the fly, off the cuff, just rolling with it. But I felt like I needed to set the stage as to how I personally use these. And in my other chats, I've got some personal info, so I'm not gonna share my other chats, but um, they're just littered with these. And every once in a while, I think back, oh yeah, didn't I have a little table for um, some of my favorites? D30 natural events that the party can may experience as they travel through the dark and mysterious forest. Shooting stars, sudden downpour, falling leaves. Like you can use these as I need to shake things up. I need an eerie silence. What does that mean? If perhaps there is a quest where I am so in my solo game, the forest of Vasneet is haunted by an ancient elven lord. She was the lord of this clan of elves that had a great civilization. Productive, fruitful civilization, and it collapsed. My elven character has a dark secret that she was not a good person, and she is in some part to blame for the destruction of the forest of Vasneet. No one else knows that, including the faction that I kind of built up on my own, just out of my brain. That's this group of like half-elf druids that are like the only people left. And in fact, they're up in the mountains now. They don't even live in the forest. Some of them venture into the forest to see how things are going. Like my character, my other half-elven character, who's now my guide through the forest. Um, the dark secret of the elf is that he knows that Elowin, the lord and queen of the people who lived in the Vasneet forest, she is partly to blame for the destruction of the forest, and she's not a great character. No one else knows that, including the half-elven ritualists and druids who still kind of worship this land as part of their ancestors. So that's an interesting dark secret. Again, Forbidden Lands, levers and knobs. You get to just figure it all out and start playing with the tools. And anytime you need a little D6 table of this or that, foods, mushrooms I could forage to eat for my characters. You can get that really quickly. D6 mushrooms that are safe to eat and forage in the forest. My solo brain's kicking in. You know who would not like me eating the connective tissue of the mycelium? Where are they? The fungal collective. If I started eating some of the mushrooms, I'd be eating part of the great spore. That wouldn't be great. Maybe my dudes would have maybe my characters would have some hallucinations or something like that. I don't know, stuff like that. Okay, so that's using ChatGPT for tabletop RPGs, particularly solo. Remember, ideation and qualification. That's your goal. You can do like solo play. Like, what would you like to do next? What do your characters do? I actually have a few. Like, it gets in that mode and it's hard to tell it to stop. I don't want you to tell me what to do, but I just kind of let it happen as I'm doing what I normally do. It thinks I'm playing with it. I'm not. Just getting ideas out of it. Okay, so feel free to ask questions in the comments. I don't know. I hope this is helpful. The solo role-playing world is just filled with people who create. I will not, maintain the hubris to think that what I say or do is useful to any other person but myself. But I like public speaking. I like videos editing. Um, I like ChatGPT and using AI tools to create um, to make playing solo easier. And I really like Forbidden Lands, so go check that out. Thank you very much for the time, and I hope you found this useful. See you later.